All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video, a little update on Brandon Aiyuk. He remains unsigned. The 49ers and Aiyuk, according to reports, are not necessarily all that close on a contract agreement. We'll touch on that coming up next. But first, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week in both spots from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Go get the brisket. Go get the brisket chili. Go say hi to Damon and Mary. Tell them that Larry Krueger sent you. And this video is also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Check the link in the description. Use the promo code KRUG, K-R-U-E-G, and they'll match you up to your first $100. Well, the Niners and Brandon Aiyuk have reportedly made very little progress on the contract extension negotiations. We've been hoping that this thing's going to get done. And it doesn't sound like it's going to get done anytime soon. And, it's ESPN's Jeremy Fowler went on Sports Center on Sunday. And this is what he said. He said, this one's tricky because he was implicated in some trade talks around the draft. He wants a new contract, has 1 year left. I'm told the 49ers certainly are open to doing a deal, but talks have not progressed enough where things are close. And so is he going to show up for their workouts? The Niners have voluntary workouts this week. I don't expect Aiyuk to show up. Fowler says it's hard to tell right now if Aiyuk will show up. The market is pretty set for him. He says Amon-Ra St. Brown in Detroit did that deal recently, about $28 million a year. So that's something for Aiyuk and the 49ers to work off of, but I'm told they're not quite there yet. Aiyuk is set to make $14.1 million next season in the final year of his rookie deal. He was an all-pro selection, and he was subjected to trade rumors ahead of the draft. The Niners obviously didn't get what they wanted. Deebo Samuel was also involved in trade talks going into day 2 of the draft. But at this point, they're both still there, and the Niners have chosen to bring back both of their veteran star wide receivers. Now, they did take a chance in the draft at replacing them. They drafted Ricky Pearsall out of Florida in the first round. They drafted Jacob Cowing out of Arizona in the 4th round. And we'll see. We'll see exactly, what that means for Aiyuk, what that means for Deebo. Are they going to be here in the future? Is Aiyuk going to get a long-term deal? Is Deebo in the final year of his 49er career? What we've seen is the wide receiver market has just absolutely continued to soar throughout this offseason. A.J. Brown got $32 million. AAV, Amon-Ra St. Brown got $30 million. Both of those guys landed extensions north of $30 million annually. And the Eagles also gave Devontae Smith, who's, you could say their second wide receiver behind A.J. Brown. He got a new deal that averages $25 million per year. I'm sure the Niners, in an ideal world, would love to give Aiyuk the exact same kind of deal that Devontae Smith got. But Aiyuk's camp wants to wait until all the receivers are signed, and that means Justin Jefferson as well, who's going to get the most, right? Jefferson's probably going to get 30 to 35 million. And I'm sure Aiyuk would like to be north of $30 million. So I'm sure he looks at himself and says, I'm as good as Amon-Ra. I don't know if he is, but I'm sure he thinks he is. So that means, $30 million. If you're looking at A.J. Brown, if you're Brandon Aiyuk, you could probably say, hey, I'm as good as A.J. Brown. He's got $32 million. So I think Aiyuk's going to sit out the mandatory offseason workouts if he can't get a deal done. That's my guess. And, the 49ers, of course, don't have to have him there. I'm sure they would like to have him there. I'm sure they would like to avoid what Deebo and Bosa did, which was long holdouts that kind of compromised them physically early in the year. The Niners don't want it to stretch into training camp and into the preseason in a year where they're looking to win the Super Bowl. So they'd like to get a deal done, but Aiyuk's camp is saying they want to wait until Jefferson and all the receivers sign. So here would be my question. If the Niners have offered him a deal between 20 and 25 million, and he's looking at deals between 25 and 30 million, and now he's looking at similar receivers that are getting north of 30 million, What if he wants 33 million and they're at 23 million? What if they're $10 million apart? I got to wonder about the wisdom in waiting and waiting and waiting, because the market is considered, just continues to go up, up, and up. And it's like the price today is more expensive than the price yesterday, and the price tomorrow is going to be more expensive than the price today. So I'm not sure if I understand. I understand why Aiyuk and his people want to wait. I don't know why the Niners want to wait. And if they do want to wait, why do they want to wait? So they can pay more? That doesn't make sense. And if it's a true impasse, are they going to move him? Are they going to try to make him play on the tag this year and then move him? Um, I don't know what the scenario is. I would think that because he's a crucial piece to your offensive puzzle, that you're going to want him in camp, and going through reps with your starting quarterback, with Brock Purdy. So that's what I would guess. My guess is that that's what they would want. The Niners would want him in camp this summer. They don't. I mean, it's one thing to have Bosa, wide nine, get up the field. You're the defensive end, go rush the passer. It's a different job description than a wide receiver who has to be in sync, completely in sync with a quarterback. So I think you can make a very compelling argument that Brandon Aiyuk desperately needs reps with Brock Purdy and camp reps, much more so than what Nick Bosa needed a year ago to be effective. And even so, Bosa was Bosa, himself early in the year. I don't think he was not as good last year as he was the year prior when he won the Defensive Player of the Year award. Was that because of the holdout? It very well could have been. So if you're the 49ers, I think, do you want Aiyuk long term? Yeah. The question is, do you want him at any price? You wanted him at 23 million. Do you want him at 25? Do you want him at 30? Do you want him at 35? What if it's like, hey, you know what? I want $35 million a year, with a ton guaranteed, or I don't want to play. Then what? Then do you move him? I mean, and what was the whole game plan of drafting two receivers in the first couple days of the draft? I mean, why? Was that because those guys are insurance policies, so you don't have to pay Aiyuk what he's asking for? Are those guys insurance policies so that if his ask gets so incredibly great that you could then trade him and have a representative receiver core without him? There's a lot of unknowns right now as far as how the Niners view the negotiations, how Aiyuk views the negotiations. Do they want him here? They've said they do, but their actions haven't gotten it done yet. Does he want to be here? He says he does, but he hasn't signed his contract. So there's a lot of unknowns here. Are the Niners willing to pay him at the very top of the scale? His side is saying, hey, we want to wait till the market's fully defined. Of course you do, because you're going to make more money the more you wait. So are the Niners going to make him wait? Are they going to make him wait another year and have him play this year at 14 million on the tag and sit there in the corner of the locker room saying, man, they haven't taken care of me. They took care of other guys. They're not taking care of me. I can't imagine that that's what they want. So it's going to be a very, very interesting summer for the 49ers. Do they get him done? Do they not? Do they trade him? I don't, it seems I'll say this. If they trade Brandon Aiyuk and they get back 2025 draft capital inside their Super Bowl window, that's a major loss. That's a major loss. If you were going to trade him for draft picks or for draft capital, you had to move him on draft day. To move him after the draft and to not have Aiyuk and not have those picks being able to be utilized until next season, that's a major loss. So if by chance, to me, the Niners had options. On draft day, they had options. They could trade him for draft picks, or they could sign him, or they could trade him for players. Now here we are post-draft. They can't trade him for draft picks. That means they either have to sign him or they have to trade him for players. If you trade him for future draft picks, that's a loss. That's a major loss. And that's a screw up. You're handing away an asset that can help you win this year and you're getting draft picks that you're not going to realize until 2025's, until not this season, until after next off season. So that's a loss. If they trade him for 2025 draft choices, that's a loss. If they trade him for players that can help them win in 2025, you say, well, what are you thinking? Well, the Raiders are really thin at wide receiver and really deep at tight end. What if you could get Michael Mayer in a third round pick or something like that? Would you take that for a Debo or an Aiyuk? The Raiders may come knocking looking for a top tier wide receiver. They have multiple tight ends. The Niners are thin at tight end. Maybe there's a deal to be had there. I don't know, but if you're taking draft picks for Aiyuk or for Debo in next year's draft, that's a major loss. The only thing that would make sense would be if you took players back that you could utilize right away, or if you signed the players and didn't move them at all and just went forward with Aiyuk and Debo on your roster. So definitely could be something to watch for. But according to Jeremy Fowler, if you're expecting Aiyuk and the Niners to announce a signing right away, don't. It doesn't sound like one's going to be coming, at least not until this summer at the earliest. All right, thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring this video. And thanks to all you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.